There are moments in life when the weight of our sorrow becomes too heavy to carry. Pain does not knock politely at our door, it invades, it overwhelms, it breaks the rhythm of our days. It comes through betrayal, through loss, through silent suffering that no one else seems to notice. And in these moments we find ourselves asking the question that echoes from the depths of ancient souls. Why? Why would a good and loving God allow this much pain? To the weary heart, such a question is not philosophical, it is survival. For when life wounds you deeply, the silence of heaven can feel like abandonment. But I invite you now to see differently, to lift your eyes from the ashes of what has been broken, and to consider the possibility that your pain is not punishment, it is preparation. What if the very agony you are enduring is not a sign that you've been forgotten, but a signal that you have been chosen? Scripture tells us of a God who refines with fire not to destroy, but to purify. Gold is never more radiant than after the flame. Diamonds are formed under unimaginable pressure, and souls are not shaped in comfort, they are carved in the caverns of suffering. Could it be that your trials are not evidence of God's absence, but proof of His presence in your transformation? Look closer. Your tears have not gone unnoticed. Every sleepless night, every whispered prayer, every ache in your chest, He sees it all. And unlike the world that rushes to fix or flee from pain, God does something far more mysterious. He redeems it. There is something sacred about a soul that has suffered and still believes. Something holy about wounds that have been touched by heaven and turned into wisdom. God is not wasteful with pain. He is deliberate. He is precise. He uses even the shattered pieces to build something far stronger than what came before. Not in spite of the pain, but because of it. Think of the lives that have risen from ruin. Joseph thrown into a pit by his brothers and sold into slavery. Years of betrayal, injustice, imprisonment. And yet it was all part of the plan. For in the end, Joseph stood not as a victim of circumstances, but as a vessel of divine purpose. What you meant for evil, he declared, God meant for good. So what about you? Could it be that the betrayal, the abandonment, the heartbreak, they were allowed not to break you, but to position you? To strip away what you once clung to so tightly that you might grab hold of something eternal. And maybe you've been praying for an answer, not realizing that your current suffering is the answer. God isn't always going to show you the full picture. He reveals Himself in pieces, in the waiting, in the wandering, in the wilderness. And if you're in a season of pain, you are in sacred company. For some of God's greatest works are born in silence, forged in sorrow, and revealed only when the time is right. But how do you know if your pain has purpose? How do you discern whether this trial you're facing is simply the cruelty of life, or the careful shaping of a divine hand? Let us now explore together the 7 signs, not random ideas, but deep truths drawn from Scripture, human experience, and the eternal rhythm of how God moves. If you recognize these signs in your own life, it may not take the pain away, but it will give your heart what it desperately needs: hope. The kind of hope that anchors you in the storm and whispers, "This is not the end. God is still writing your story." First sign: you are being stripped of what you once clung to. There is a deep sorrow that fills the soul when life begins to peel away the things we once held tightly. The very things we thought we could not live without are suddenly torn from our grasp, and we are left trembling, wondering why the God we trusted allowed such loss to unfold. But listen closely. This stripping away is not cruelty. It is a sacred dismantling of attachments that were never meant to anchor your soul. When God begins to use your pain for a higher purpose, He first removes the false securities you once relied upon. Relationships that you thought were unbreakable begin to crumble. Opportunities you had pinned your hopes upon slip through your fingers. Comforts that once brought you peace fade into shadows. And in this divine unraveling, your heart is forced to look upward, not outward, not inward, but upward. God is not punishing you by taking these things away. He is protecting you. He is drawing you away from counterfeit comforts so that you may find your refuge in Him alone. The pain of detachment is sharp, almost unbearable at times, but it is necessary. For as long as you depend on what is temporary, you will never discover the power of what is eternal. Can you feel it? The hollow ache where familiarity once lived. That ache is the space God is clearing to fill with His presence. What feels like emptiness is, in truth, preparation. What feels like abandonment is alignment. And though your heart cries out for restoration, God whispers, "First, I must remove what cannot carry you into your destiny." You see, the greater the purpose, the deeper the pruning. And pruning, by its very nature, is painful. The vine does not understand why the gardener cuts it back, why he severs fruitful branches. But the gardener sees what the vine cannot. He knows that without the cutting, there will be no abundance. Without the stripping, there will be no strength. Ask yourself this: what has God taken from your life that you resisted releasing? What have you mourned, not realizing that its departure was the doorway to your destiny? Trust this truth: if it was essential for your purpose, God would not have removed it. If it remains in your life, it is either part of your growth or part of your test. And if it is gone, it was never meant to complete you. Your soul, dear listener, is being taught to stand on holy ground alone. To trust not in people, not in circumstances, not in fleeting comforts, but in the unshakable foundation of God's will. This process feels like destruction, but it is divine reconstruction. What is collapsing around you is not the end of your story. It is the clearing of the old to make way for the new. Let your tears fall, yes, but let them water the soil of your future. Let your cries rise, yes, but let them rise as prayers of surrender. For in the moments when you feel most forsaken, you are, in fact, being most fiercely protected. And when you look back upon this season, you will see clearly what is now clouded by sorrow. God did not take from you to hurt you. He took from you to heal you. This is the first sign that God is using your pain for a greater purpose. He is stripping away what you once clung to, not to leave you empty, but to fill you with something far greater than you ever imagined. Second sign: your faith is being tested beyond comfort. There comes a moment in every believer's journey when the familiar paths of faith become dark and uncertain, when prayers seem to rise no higher than the ceiling, and the heavens feel silent despite your desperate cries. This is not a sign of God's absence. It is the unmistakable sign of your faith being tested beyond comfort. Faith that is never tested remains shallow, fragile, and easily shaken. But faith that endures the storm becomes unbreakable. When God uses your pain for a higher purpose, He will allow your faith to be stretched to its very limits, not to destroy you, but to fortify you. The storms are not sent to sink you, but to strengthen the anchor of your soul. Have you noticed how easy it is to believe when everything is going well? When prayers are answered swiftly, when doors open effortlessly, when life flows in harmony, it is simple to trust in those moments. But genuine faith is forged in the fires of affliction. It is in the waiting, the wondering, and the weeping that your trust in God is purified and made whole. The Lord does not delight in your pain, but He rejoices in your perseverance. He allows your faith to be tested because He desires a relationship with you that is not based on comfort, but on conviction. He wants you to trust Him not because life is easy, but because He is good even when life is not. You might be asking yourself, why must my faith be tested so severely? Why can't God make the path smoother? But consider this: a bridge is never truly trusted until it bears the weight of the crossing. So it is with your faith. Until it carries you across the chasm of despair, it cannot be called strong. In these moments, you are not being abandoned, you are being proven. You are being shaped into a vessel that can carry the weight of God's glory. You are learning to walk by faith and not by sight, to trust the invisible hand that guides you through the valley of shadows. Do not despise this testing. Do not curse the wilderness, for it is here in the lonely places that you will hear the whisper of God's voice more clearly than ever before. It is here that you will discover a depth of intimacy with your Creator that no mountaintop experience can provide. Your faith is being stretched because your purpose is expanding. God is preparing you for victories that require unshakable trust. He is refining you for battles that demand unwavering courage. And though you cannot see the full picture now, trust that the brushstrokes of pain are painting a masterpiece of redemption. This is the second sign that God is using your pain for a greater purpose. Your faith is being tested beyond comfort, not to crush you, but to create within you a resilience that can withstand any storm. Third sign, your pain is drawing you closer to God. There is a truth that resonates deeply in the soul when you find yourself in the midst of pain. It is in suffering that we often experience God's presence most intimately. In times of hardship, when everything seems to crumble around you, your heart cries out in ways it never has before, reaching upward in desperate yearning. Pain, though unbearable, has this strange and beautiful way of breaking down the walls between us and the divine. Consider this. When everything is easy, when life flows smoothly, it is tempting to believe that we are self-sufficient. We fall into the trap of comfort, forgetting that God is the true source of every good thing. But when the trials come, when everything that once felt secure is shaken, we are forced to face a truth we cannot ignore: we are not in control. And in that surrender, there is a turning to God like never before. Have you noticed that in the midst of suffering, your prayers become more earnest? The words that once felt trivial now carry weight. Your tears are no longer just signs of pain. They become the currency of your heart's longing for God. You begin to search for His voice in the silence, to feel His presence in the stillness, and to trust in His promises when everything else seems fleeting. God does not waste pain. The refining fire that burns in your soul is not pointless suffering. It is an invitation to draw nearer to Him. Just as gold must be purified by fire, so must your soul be purified by trials. When you feel like you have lost everything, you are being made ready to receive the only thing that truly matters: God Himself. When you face pain, it strips away distractions, it strips away your pride, and it strips away everything you thought you needed. In the midst of that emptiness, God's presence becomes tangible. You find that He is enough, and His love is deeper than the deepest sorrow. This is the kind of intimacy that cannot be experienced in the high places of life. It is birthed in the low valleys, in the brokenness, in the wrestling of your heart. Through your pain, God is calling you closer. He is inviting you into His embrace to find comfort not in the absence of suffering, but in His presence amid it. You are being shaped into someone who does not just know about God, but who knows God, someone whose heart has been touched and molded by the very hand of the Creator. When you are broken, you become more receptive to the healing power of God's touch. It is only when we are emptied of ourselves that we can be filled with His love, His strength, and His peace. And in that filling, there is a transformation. Pain becomes a bridge to greater intimacy, to a deeper relationship with the one who sees you, knows you, and loves you with an everlasting love. God is using your pain to draw you closer to Him, to bring you to a place where your soul can fully surrender and find rest in His arms. He is teaching you that even in your deepest hurt, He is still good, He is still faithful, and He is still present. Your pain is not punishment, it is the path to a richer relationship with your Savior. The fourth sign, you are becoming a vessel of compassion. Pain has a way of softening the heart, of teaching us what it means to truly empathize with others. Before suffering, it is easy to stand on the outside of someone else's pain and offer well-meaning advice. But when you've been in the depths of sorrow, when you've walked through the valley of shadows yourself, something shifts within you. You begin to understand in a way that you never could have before. It is through suffering that God often molds us into vessels of compassion. We live in a world where pain is ubiquitous, where every heart carries a burden, even if we cannot see it. When you have been through the furnace of affliction, you are uniquely positioned to comfort others who are walking the same difficult path. Your pain, which once felt like an isolating experience, now becomes a bridge to others, a tool that God uses to pour out His love and grace. Consider how Jesus, the ultimate model of compassion, walked among the hurting. He did not stay distant from pain. He entered into it. He wept with those who wept, he healed those who were broken, and he comforted those who were crushed in spirit. His compassion was not theoretical. It was deeply personal, born from his own suffering and sacrifice. And now, as his followers, we are called to share in that same ministry of compassion. But it is only through our own experiences of suffering that we can truly know what it means to weep with those who weep. God is shaping you through your pain to be a living testimony of His love and mercy. You are learning to extend grace to others in a way that goes beyond words. Your very presence becomes a balm for the hurting, a reminder that God sees, God cares, and God is with them. You are becoming a vessel through which His love flows, a light in the darkness for those who are lost and in need of healing. The compassion that arises from your pain is not a mere emotional response. It is the overflow of God's love within you. You are learning to see others not from a place of judgment or distance, but from a place of understanding, tenderness, and grace. The brokenness of your own heart has made you a conduit for God's healing power in the lives of others. And here's the beautiful truth. The more you pour out compassion, the more God fills you with His love. The more you comfort those who mourn, the more you experience the comfort of the Holy Spirit in your own soul. You are being used as an instrument of God's healing in a world that desperately needs it. And in this process, you are finding that your pain has not only a purpose, it is part of God's redemptive plan for the world. Your suffering is not in vain. Through it, God is shaping you into someone who reflects His heart. Someone who has the capacity to love and heal others in ways you never could have imagined. This is the second sign that God is using your pain for a greater purpose. He is transforming you into a vessel of compassion, a conduit of His love in a broken world. The fifth sign. Your pain is leading you to discover your true purpose. There is a paradox that unfolds when we find ourselves in the midst of pain. We often discover who we truly are and what we are truly called to do in the very midst of suffering. When life is comfortable and predictable, we rarely question our direction. We drift along, content with what we know, surrounded by the familiar. But pain disrupts this complacency. It shakes the foundation of our existence, and in that shaking, it reveals what was hidden beneath the surface, our truest calling. Pain has a way of opening our eyes to our deepest desires, our innermost needs, and our most profound purposes. It forces us to confront what truly matters in our lives, what we are willing to fight for, and what we are meant to give to the world. Pain, while excruciating, can be the very thing that pushes us into alignment with the life we were always meant to live. Ask yourself, what has this pain revealed to you about your heart? What desires have bubbled up from the depths of your soul that you never noticed before? Perhaps this trial has awakened a passion for helping others, a desire to stand for justice, or a longing to serve in a way you never imagined. Perhaps this pain has shown you how deeply you care about things that once seemed insignificant, or it has made you realize that your purpose in life is far greater than the routine you once lived. Before this season of suffering, you may have been content to live a life that was comfortable and predictable. But through the crucible of pain, God is refining you, preparing you to step into a destiny that you could never have anticipated. The discomfort, the loss, the heartache, they are not meaningless. They are part of the divine shaping that is bringing you closer to the person you were always meant to become. It is often said that purpose is born in the crucible of difficulty. It is in our moments of greatest need that we find the strength and resilience to pursue the things that matter most. The very thing that has been the cause of your suffering might, in fact, be the very thing that propels you into the future you were meant to live. And while you may not yet fully understand how this pain will lead to purpose, trust this: God is not wasteful. Every moment of suffering, every ounce of your heartache, is being used to guide you closer to the reason you were created. This is where the transformation begins to take shape. The pain that once defined you will soon become the very thing that refines you. It will push you beyond your limits, stretch your understanding of what's possible, and awaken gifts and talents that lay dormant within you. You will begin to see that your pain is not a curse, but a gift that will allow you to walk into a purpose that will not only change your life, but will change the lives of those around you. It may not feel like it now, but the purpose that is emerging from your pain is greater than anything you could have ever imagined. As God refines you through this pain, He is revealing the unique calling that He has placed on your life. Perhaps your calling is to help others who are suffering, to stand in the gap for those who are broken, or to bring healing where there is despair. Whatever your true purpose is, God is using this painful season to reveal it, to make it clear, and to prepare you for the next chapter of your life. You might ask, how can this pain possibly lead to something good? But the answer lies in the transformation that is taking place within you. The heart that is broken is the heart that can empathize. The soul that has been humbled is the soul that can serve. The person who has been tested is the person who can stand firm in faith and lead others to the truth. Your pain is the soil in which your purpose is being cultivated. As you walk through this season, allow yourself to lean into God's promise that He is working all things together for good. This is the fifth sign that God is using your pain for a greater purpose. Your suffering is not in vain. It is the pathway to discovering the deeper calling and the higher purpose that He has uniquely designed for you. Embrace the journey, trust the process, and know that through this pain, you are being prepared for a life far greater than anything you could have ever planned for yourself. Sixth sign. Your pain is teaching you to let go of control. There is a profound truth that unfolds in the quiet moments of suffering. Pain forces us to confront our need for control. We live in a world that values certainty, planning, and the illusion that we can dictate our own futures. But when pain enters, it shatters these illusions. No matter how much we try to hold on to what we think we can control, there comes a moment when we must face the harsh reality that we are not in control. At first, this loss of control feels like chaos. It feels like the ground beneath us is shifting and that everything we have worked for is crumbling. Our hearts cry out for some semblance of stability, some reassurance that we can fix what is broken, that we can control the outcome of our suffering. But as we struggle, we begin to realize something incredible. God's power is made perfect in our weakness. And it is through this very surrender, this letting go of control, that we find our deepest peace. We spend so much of our lives grasping at the reins, trying to steer our own course. We make plans, set goals, and chase after dreams, believing that if we work hard enough, we can shape our destiny. But what happens when those plans fall apart? When the dreams we've built seem out of reach, and the future we've envisioned is no longer possible? Pain is the great equalizer. It strips away our illusions of control and forces us to acknowledge that ultimately we are at the mercy of God's will. And while this may sound frightening at first, it is in fact the beginning of true freedom. When you let go of your need to control everything around you, you make space for God to move in ways you never could have imagined. It is in the moment of surrender that the divine begins to work. Think about it. When everything in your life is falling apart, when you have no choice but to let go, it is in those moments that God reveals His strength. He does not require you to have all the answers. He does not demand that you figure it out. Instead, He asks you to trust Him. In the letting go, you make room for Him to take the lead. The pain you are experiencing is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of God's invitation to relinquish control and step into a deeper relationship with Him. In fact, the more tightly we cling to our own will, the more we resist the very work God wants to do in our lives. It is when we are willing to let go of the outcome, when we stop trying to control every variable, that God can move us into the space of true trust. Consider how Jesus, during His time on earth, exemplified surrender. He knew the agony that awaited Him on the cross. He knew the suffering that would break His body and the weight of the sin of the world He would carry. And yet, in His deepest hour of pain, He uttered these words, "Not my will, but yours be done." This is the heart of surrender, trusting God's will above your own. In the midst of your pain, you are being asked to do the same, to trust that God is in control, even when your life feels out of control. This does not mean you are passive or resigned to your circumstances. It means that you are surrendering your will to the One who sees beyond the present moment. You are acknowledging that God knows better than you do. He knows what lies ahead, he knows the end of the story, and he is weaving together all things, both good and painful, for his glory and for your ultimate good. It is a hard lesson to learn, especially in the midst of suffering. We want to fight back against the pain, to find ways to control the situation, to make things better on our own. But the truth is, the more we try to control, the more we hinder God's perfect plan. Surrender does not mean giving up. It means letting go of your need to control the outcome and allowing God to take over. In your current pain, God is teaching you how to trust, how to release your grip on the illusion of control, and how to embrace the reality that His ways are higher than your ways. When you surrender your need for control, you open the door for God to step in and show you a path that you never could have imagined. The pain, therefore, becomes the teacher that guides you into a place of deeper trust. And while it may be uncomfortable at first, the lessons of surrender will transform you. You will begin to understand that the more you let go of your need to control, the more peace you will experience. And in that peace, you will find the strength to face whatever comes next. God does not promise to remove all pain, but He does promise to be with you through it. He will hold your hand as you let go of the need to control and step into the unknown with faith. This is the lesson of surrender, and it is one of the most powerful signs that God is using your pain for a greater purpose. The seventh sign: your pain is preparing you for greater blessings. It is a strange truth that most of us are unwilling to accept. Pain is the very thing that positions us for the blessings that lie ahead. When we are in the midst of suffering, it often feels as though we are being punished, as though our hope for a better life is slipping further and further from our reach. Yet in the divine economy, pain and blessing are often intertwined, and what seems like the darkest chapter of our lives is often the very thing that God uses to prepare us for a future that exceeds our expectations. We live in a world that seeks to avoid discomfort, to bypass hardship in favor of ease. But God's ways are not our ways. He does not see suffering as something to be avoided at all costs, but as a tool to shape, refine, and strengthen His children. When you are in the crucible of pain, it can feel as though your dreams are fading away, but God is working in you and through you in ways you cannot yet understand. You see, blessings are not simply rewards for good behavior, they are the result of God's grace, given to those who have been refined through trial and adversity. The greatest blessings often come after the greatest struggles, and the strength needed to hold those blessings comes only from having endured the hardships that precede them. If God were to simply hand us blessings without refining us first, we would not have the capacity to receive them, to hold them, or to steward them well. Think about the story of Job, who lost everything: his wealth, his health, his family. In his deepest agony, he could not see the end of the story, but God did. And though Job's pain was intense, God used it to shape him into someone who would receive blessings far beyond what he had before. Job's story does not end in despair. It ends in restoration, in abundance, and in greater blessings than he could have ever imagined. Job's pain was the preparation for the fullness of God's blessings. The same is true for you. God is using your suffering as a part of His divine plan to prepare you for the greater blessings He has in store. Right now, it might seem impossible to imagine how anything good could come from your pain. But understand this: your current suffering is positioning you for something that you cannot yet see, something far greater than anything you have known. There is a reason why God allows us to go through seasons of hardship and waiting. He is preparing us to handle the blessings that will come. Without the lessons learned in pain, we would not have the maturity or the depth of character required to fully appreciate and steward the blessings God desires to pour into our lives. It is only when we have learned to lean on Him fully, when we have been refined through the fire of trials, that we are ready to receive what He has planned for us. And even as we are enduring, God is at work. He is developing within us the qualities that will sustain the blessings He is bringing. Patience, endurance, trust, and wisdom, these are the treasures that are being forged in the midst of pain. It is in the waiting, in the difficulty, and in the uncertainty that God shapes us into the people who are capable of stewarding the gifts He will give us. Sometimes when we are suffering, it feels as though we are stuck, as though our lives are on hold. But in reality, God is preparing us for the next step, for the moment when the floodgates of His blessings will open. We are being molded into vessels that can contain the abundance He wants to give. If we are unwilling to allow Him to refine us, we may miss the fullness of what He has in store. Perhaps you are facing challenges right now that seem insurmountable. Perhaps you feel as though the future you once dreamed of is slipping through your fingers. But I urge you to trust in this. God is using this season to prepare you for a harvest that will far surpass what you have lost. Your pain is not a punishment. It is the soil in which your blessings are being planted. God is cultivating within you a heart that can endure, a spirit that can persevere, and a soul that can carry the weight of the blessings He is preparing. In time, you will look back on this season and see how each moment of struggle, each tear you've shed, was part of the divine preparation for the greater good that is coming. Your pain is not the end of your story, it is the beginning of something greater. And when the blessings come, you will know that they were worth the wait, worth the struggle, and worth the pain. You are not forgotten in your suffering. God is with you in the fire, and He is refining you for the future He has planned. Trust in His timing and trust that He is preparing you to receive the blessings that will make all the pain worth it. As we draw this reflection to a close, let us remember the profound truth that has unfolded throughout our journey today. Your pain is not in vain. It is not a random series of unfortunate events, nor is it a sign that God has abandoned you. No, in fact, your pain is a powerful part of a divine plan that is being carefully crafted by a God who knows you better than you know yourself. Through every wound, through every moment of heartbreak, you have been drawn closer to the one who understands suffering more deeply than any of us could ever imagine. Just as Jesus, with all of His infinite wisdom and power, walked through agony and pain on the cross, He walks with you now in your darkest moments. He knows your suffering, He feels your anguish, and He has already woven it into the greater purpose He has set for you. Your pain has a purpose. It is stripping away the things that cannot sustain you and drawing you closer to your Creator. It is stretching your faith, refining your heart, and equipping you to serve the world with a compassion born from your own experiences. It is preparing you to receive blessings beyond your imagination, blessings that will be sustained because you have been refined in the fire. And through it all, you are becoming a person who embodies resilience, strength, and unwavering trust in the divine plan that is unfolding. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You are a vessel of transformation being prepared for a life of greater meaning, greater purpose, and greater service to others. As you continue to walk through this season, remember that God is not finished with you. What may feel like an end is simply the beginning of something even greater. Your pain, your heartache, and your tears are the soil in which your purpose will bloom. So hold fast to the truth that you are never alone in your suffering. God is using it to shape you into a vessel of His love, to equip you with a strength that can only come from having been tested. And in His perfect timing, you will see the fruit of your labor, the harvest of your perseverance, and the fulfillment of your divine purpose. Trust in this, your pain is leading you to something far greater than you can imagine. And with every step, every tear, every struggle, you are becoming exactly who you were always meant to be. In the end, God will use your suffering for His glory and your good, and you will emerge stronger, wiser, and more deeply connected to the divine purpose He has placed within you. You are not defined by your pain. You are defined by your faith in the one who has already redeemed it.